This is Master Kambai. Welcome to this new replay commentary, and today we get a guest. You can now present yourself again because you already came before.
Hi everybody, this is mathblitz. I am, I guess, a regular now of this channel. I play mostly Fog League. I am reasonably high rated, and just here to play another game and give some perspective on a map and how I think people should go about thinking about the map. So, do you have anything you want to add before we just dive into this?
Let's start off with do you have mouse control? Just make sure.
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. So let's start off with this. I truly hate this map. It's disgusting, but you're the one that brought it up, and you're like, even good player can learn from it. So I was like, okay, just for once, I will agree to do a abomination map as replay commentary, because you guys know me. I do this for fun, and I enjoy doing replay commentaries, and usually I like to play maps I like, and I try to not play that kind of map here. And I just made that exception because I'm like, oh, for content's sake, we can do some exception, and maybe I can force myself into playing this abomination and maybe learning to like it more. Just maybe. So, what are your thoughts on the map before we cover the COs?
Okay. So I do like this map. I think the reasons why people don't like the map right now is that there's a lot of cheese strategies that people haven't quite worked out how to avoid. It's a little bit like Cliff Remix in that there are a couple of things that you have to do in order to not start the mid game with a substantial disadvantage. But even with those forced moves, I think the map is still good because there's a lot of interesting dynamics that the map forces you to do it's just not things that you see inside other maps. So the things in particular that I want to call attention to is that the reinforcement distances for this map are really, really long. You can see that for Orange Star here in the corner, if you want to bring vehicles into this area, you have to kind of go all around this river.
Yeah.
And you have a black boat that can supply infantry and mech to this area, but nothing else. Whereas on the other side, you have a lander that can transport vehicles, but actually, if you calculate it out, the lander doesn't actually speed up vehicles traveling to this front. They actually make it there in the same amount of time if they just go by the land route.
Yeah.
So the lander here is actually a bit of a trap. You should use landers to accelerate vehicles and units that cannot make it there faster. So the lander should only really be used for artillery, for mid-tanks, and for most importantly, infantry, because you're going to be at a severe lack of infantry on this front if you don't do that.
Maybe Raycon as well could be interesting because there's a lot of plane, and I also think rockets in some cases, because I did enjoy rockets sometime with some COs, because I think rockets are more viable because of that lander. I think that's the only thing I actually like about that map, but I think the worst in that is sending reinforcement here. So this means the game will be really boring because we will send all of our orange star tanks here, and green earth or amber blaze in this case will send all of their tanks there. And this is what I hate the most. I do think if we had a two-lander, yes, the map dynamic would be different, but I would not hate that much this map. Now, I truly hate it because of the map dynamic in itself. I don't like to be forced into playing like one way. So this is why I just cannot play this map without making a lander, but we will speak about that later on if it's good or bad. I do think it's the only way to play this shit, and I don't know how you made it to beat me, and we will see later on. But yeah, I really hate that map dynamic. I like diversity in my maps. I like to like have different experience each time I play, and this one clearly doesn't provide a different experience. Well, that's just my opinion here. Now, as of the COs, why did you pick Drake?
So, just so your viewers know, when we first picked this map, both of us picked Sammy, and we restarted the map to have a non-mirror matchup. But Sammy is the correct choice, at least for tier 3 in this map. And the reason why is that because of the dynamic of this river, there's going to be a lot of infantry and mech inside both areas with the comm towers, and there's a lot of advantages that you can gain by having a advantage with in the infantry on infantry fighting.
Yeah.
And the 10 and Sammy gets a really large boost on that damage, whereas she doesn't get as much. She doesn't lose as much on tanks, which
Yeah.
are still very useful for attacking, even if they're like at 90%. The other thing that I want to bring up here is that there is a lander that the extra transport move that Sammy gets lets her move the lander onto this port instead of this shoal. And that's important because the infantry can then be dropped off at this forest and then capture the city in the corner a little bit faster and be a little bit more aggressive inside your captures.
Yeah.
So the way this map works is that the only two properties that are truly contestable at the start of the game are the comm towers.
Yeah.
And actually that's the major cheese that you can do, which is that your opponent, if you're not careful, your opponent can very easily prevent you from taking the comm tower altogether, which is what we're going to see inside this game.
Yeah.
But then after the comm tower is taken, the game becomes more of a damage race per se. No side is definitely going to lose, but basically what you want to do is you want to engineer an attack on the entire front of the map. And what you're looking to do is to win on one of the fronts and delay your opponent on the other one, so that you can burst past the comm tower and then take these cities after you have won the front. So that's how the game is won. You win one front, you win one front, you delay the other, you capture like 3 contestable cities, these 3 right here, or I think these 3 are contestable. Maybe this corner one's a bit more contestable. And then use that funding advantage to win the game.
Yeah, I think
Now,
that's another reason why I really don't like this map. There's not really like contested buildings, and I think it's really boring because it feels like that kind of game in this map takes forever if someone doesn't resign, and that's another thing I don't like. And it takes forever because both players have basically the same income for most of the time, and sometimes, just sometimes, we got a gap of like 2k, sometimes 4k if one of the 2 players is really bad at holding buildings. But even there, it's never that bad, and it's another reason why I really dislike this map. I just hate it.
I understand. Yeah, so this map, assuming that both players get out of opening cheese, really rewards careful planning and positioning of your units to exert and then execute the highest level threat.
Yeah.
Now, as to why I chose Drake here, I did want a mirror matchup, and I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I thought that it'd be cool to like still be able to show off this like lander trick, because Drake also gets +1 movement on his naval unit, so I can still show the lander coming out here and grabbing this early. And mostly it's because Tordra had recently released a video talking about the Andy versus Drake matchup and how many advantages Andy has over Drake by virtue of his power actually being very useful for getting game-winning advantages or undoing the damage of Drake's scoff. I mean, you have to plan for it, but the matchup is very rough for Drake.
Yeah.
So recently, I've been thinking about like starting to play Drake more, just so that I can get a better feel of like how to utilize him inside tier 3 and kind of rejuvenate his name. Now, I'm not very good with Drake, and I basically play Drake like I would have played Sammy.
Yeah.
But that's why I decided to take it here.
Oh, that's interesting, and thank you for not doing that mirror match. It's kind of bad. And this is funny because you say Sammy is really good in this map. I never really considered that, and I never really considered that. Like, it's really rare I will pick a CO because of some maps advantage or stuff like that. And I know if we start doing that, we become better. But here's the thing, I play for fun, and I like having people around. That's why I bring like high skilled players, so my viewer can actually enjoy like a casual player and a pro player, you know. But I play for fun, and I never really realized Sami was that strong in this map. I just wanted to play her because I want to main Lash or Sami in tier 3. That's like the two CO I really want to main in tier 3 because I'm kind of bored with Drake and Kindle because they are two very easy COs to play, and Drake is very like underrated and very underappreciated. I think he's kind of broken, and he should be tier 2. Even if he has like bad copters, it doesn't matter when you have global damage. Global damage is like OP. But that's just my take. That's just my own opinion, and I know people don't really see that. They're like, oh, he has bad copters. Grit has bad copters. Is he a bad CO? Not really. So I think it's the same with Drake for different reasons. And yeah, Sami and Lash are two very fun COs. So either I was going for Lash or Sami. But I decided I would go Sami because I played a lot of Lash lately, so I'm like, I have that Sami rush.
That makes sense. There's a lot of zero star terrain around like areas, around contestable areas. I'm not sure Lash would be a particularly good pick on this map. But I do want to address the reasons why Sami is good, just because I think there is something that can be learned from here. So, as I said earlier, Sami is good for a few reasons. The first one is that is there something wrong?
I just wanted to make sure I was recording because I was like, we are 11 minutes in, and sometimes I think I record, but we don't, but we do.
Okay, great. So there are a handful of reasons why Sami, I believe, is the tier 3 pick in this map. The first one is this lander trick down on the bottom side of the map, and mirrored on the top side of the map. The second one is that one of your fronts is going to have a number of infantry and mech already. And having super-powered infantry and mech is very useful for pushing on that front or withstanding a push from the opponent.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I wanted to bring up here is something that Voice of Akasha said before I started a match against Natural Sky on Scorpion Operation, which is that maps that have heavy copter presence are going to be naturally good for Sami. And the reason why is that at lower funding amounts, at lower funding amounts, if you build a copter, you're likely to build more infantry, right? Higher unit count usually means more infantry on the map. More infantry means there's generally more infantry on infantry fighting. And on this map in particular, I believe tanks take 3 turns to make it to either front, but a copter can make it to this top front in as few as 2 turns depending on where the battle lines are drawn.
Yeah.
So copters are very, very useful on this map, and because copters are useful, infantry are useful. There's more infantry on infantry fighting. Sami is better.
Speaking about copters, do you think transport copter are actually really good in this map, or not really?
Not at all, no.
Okay.
We'll get into that
good to
in a
know,
second,
because
but
sometimes I'm like, I have Sami, I have mechs, so let's have transport copters so I can ferry them faster on the mountain and stuff, but
yeah.
Based on what you said, not really. And I think I overused transport during our game, but that's something I'm guilty of at Sami because I feel like she needs transport to have good mechs because mechs can compete with tank and anti-air, but they need mobility and they kind of suck with 2 space.
I understand. We'll get into it. I'll talk about each of the decisions that you made that I disagree with and why.
Okay.
So when we get to that part of the game with the T-copter, then I'll talk about it. So let's go ahead and move in with the game. So the first couple of turns are pretty standard. Okay, so here is where I think you make the major. I don't remember for player 2. Player 2 might actually be able to do this a little later. But basically what needs to happen here is the first infantry you send basically needs to come out to this tower and capture it immediately.
Okay.
And the reason why is that a turn 3 recon, which is the earliest timing that you can build a recon, well, without phase skipping, a turn 3 recon can sit on this comm tower and prevent you from starting a capture on it for a very, very long time because of how long it takes for a tank to get out here to stop it and how long it takes for mechs to come up here to stop it. Basically, your only recourse to this recon is an early copter, which which probably still takes some like base skipping in order to get it out fast enough to capture it before I have more units in range. So this is a cheese, and this cheese is why the early recon works. If when people learn to send their first infantry towards that tower early, it will no longer make sense to build a day 3 recon. A day 4 recon works just as well. But as we see here, I send my infantry immediately for this comm tower, and we're going to see that as we keep going, I'm going to beat you to this comm tower, and you're not going to. I don't think you captured the entire game.
Yeah. But you made a good point here, and I'm kind of surprised because usually I always want money, and it makes sense in most maps, but because this map is stupid, it doesn't make sense anymore, and we need to rush the tower. But usually I want money.
I understand, yeah. In general, you don't want... It depends. If your opponent can delay your comm tower indefinitely, then you need to prioritize it. If your opponent cannot do that, then you should focus on money so you can get vehicles out faster.
Yeah.
So now I want to note this turn. So you build a lander here. The rationale, I assume, is to get vehicles up to this area earlier. This is not a good move. And the reason why is that the landers cost a lot of money. They cost 12,000. That's like... That 12,000 could have been 2 infantry upgraded to tanks. You have basically sacrificed 2 tanks in order to build this one lander. Now that wouldn't necessarily... That would be bad in and of itself, but to tag onto that, there is no space on these river tiles where the lander can land and drop off 2 vehicles. If you could drop off 2 vehicles, I think you might be able to justify this in some kind of cheat scenario. But if you can only send 1 vehicle at a time, this lander is really not doing very much. Especially considering the fact that you're Sami, and Sami can drop off mechs with his black boat, which are going to be honestly better than any of the vehicles that you could send.
Even anti-airs? So, I got you.
You don't need anti-airs like this early. You can just send copters, because my copters will take a very long time to get over here.
Yeah.
So, and by the time they get over here, you can already have more copters of your own inside this area. So, yes, you want anti-airs there eventually, but that's definitely something that you can reroute around here. Now, I want to bring up my first 5. So, I built a copter as my first serious vehicle.
Okay.
The reason why I did this is that people tend to underestimate, or people tend to assume that Drake players will never build air units, or if they build air units, that they'll like delay it.
Never do
and
that.
So,
I never do that. I know how dangerous it can be. It's the same for Jess. Like, copters are a staple, and I never fall into that trap. But yeah, you make a really good point, and unexpected battlecopters like that can really damage a lot in any army.
Yeah. So the first battlecopter I make is with that purpose in mind. I'm hoping to surprise you. I'm expecting to see a recon out here hit one of my infantry. I'm still pushing forward, getting for greedy caps, just because I need the information about whether or not you built an early recon. But I'm planning on punishing that early recon with a copter hit, assuming that the next vehicle you have is going to be a tank. And maybe the next 2 vehicles that you make are going to be tanks, which means that I might have like 2 to 3 turns of free hits with my copter before anything can respond. So yeah.
And now,
right, so
now that you said having the lander is bad, I hate this map even more because I thought the lander was somewhat good in this map because I can send more tanks, even if it's only 1 tank at a time. That tank save like 2 days because it takes only 1 day to reach where I want it to be. But based on what you said, like, it makes sense. What you said, it makes sense, and I hate this map even more now.
Yeah, I understand that. This map does require a lot of like prior planning in order to really be successful. So I just want to mention one thing. You send your infantry straight up for this comm tower. In general, you don't want to do that. You don't want to put your units next to high defense terrain that you don't control, unless you have good reason. So this infantry, it was never making it to the comm tower. It would have been better for you to put the infantry in this plane so that if I had a unit, I would have to hit from not on this high defense terrain. This
This
is
is true, and I laugh right now because Kanpai told me the same thing a few days ago. But this need to like enter my brain and stay there, but it makes sense, and that's funny because I forgot when exactly it was, but it wasn't that long ago. It was like probably last weekend. And I am assuming Friday. I think this is when we did a live together. And yeah, you say the same thing as him, and this makes me laugh because all top player like you and Kanbai, they know their stuff.
yeah, yeah. So this lets me get a free hit off on this infantry. And the free hits I get off on your infantry on this front is really what's gonna... Well, actually no, the second transport probably seals the deal. I'm pretty sure I can win from this game state even without this infantry hit. Yeah, so you build another transport copter, which is not gonna help a lot because, again, you already have a black boat ferrying your units across the river. And the T-copter in itself is, one, not accelerating any caps, so it's not justifying its expense, and two, is redundant with the number of transports you've already built. So this transport is basically another tank that you don't have, which is going to hurt you later.
Yeah.
Okay? So now on this left side, I have captured this city because this is kind of a greedy cap, but I know that there's none of these cities I can realistically take and hold. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look to retreat and build up an infantry blob here, backed up by mech and copters.
Yeah.
Because I am preparing for a later plan, a later stage of the game. So let's forward a few more moves. Oh, this cap I do on this city is a little greedy. This is actually very easy for you to
deny it.
deny it. And like even the way you deny it basically is you need a copter over here, and even though you don't have that copter, that battle copter, I have to assume that you do. So what you can do here is you can, if you suspect that I'm capturing this property, you can move this 3 health infantry up and then hit it with this infantry. And I basically have to leave it all alone. I have to tuck tail and run because I don't want to get hit by like a copter chain coming up this way because I'm not ready for it yet. I've just built my first anti-air and it's coming this direction. And so is this copter, but they're not there yet, so I need to be careful. Okay. So this is where you start to go wrong. Basically, you are overextending inside this area. These infantry, I know, can't possibly be backed up by vehicles, especially since now I can see your transport copter.
Okay.
So I know that if I can hit these, in long term, I am going to win that fight. And so I just start fighting. And because you're Sami, you get some good hits back. You get some good hits back, but now everything is overextended, and at this point, I think I have like a 5-unit advantage over you in terms of infantry, and I know that I can win the game from this position.
Yeah.
You don't have the comm tower. You've taken some unit losses here, which is going to make it difficult for you to fight off my attack, and that alone is enough for me to win the game. Now, I want to bring up some other things. So I brought some more infantry down this way because I see how many infantry you have, and I'm thinking that maybe since you're losing on this front, you're about to smash me hard on the left side. So I'm starting to redirect infantry. But something that's important and factors into the mid-late game dynamics of the game, if you haven't already lost, is that sometimes you're not able to push from your defensive position in this area with your mechs and your infantry. In which case, something that I like to do is to continue ferrying infantry to this area and then set up a chain feeding infantry across the middle to this front. And what this does is that the major disadvantage that you have fighting into the enemy's comm tower is that they can send tanks up this direction. I'm assuming you have to get that.
So,
Okay.
we are back.
Yeah. So an important mid-game thing that you can do here is you can start funneling infantry from your block across the middle to this front. And this is the thing that actually makes fighting for the middle worth it, because you can't If you have control of the middle and you have a solid formation here, you can use that to overwhelm the right side with vehicles and infantry slowly funneled over. Now, that doesn't end up happening in this game, but it is something that you should keep in mind. You can also start funneling copters over this direction.
And I feel like this map, you cannot really do any mistakes, and that's another big issue for me. Like, this map is really annoying just to get around and understand. And then, if you do one mistake, you basically lose. Because I don't see any comeback. Like, the HQ is exposed, but only to a player that is already winning, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And it's really hard to defend that HQ, but it's hard to attack as well. So you cannot really flip the table. So this map, it's a win or break, and wow, I hate it even more now.
I mean, we had a game on Fletcher Walker where I talked about how to play from behind. That being said, once you get up to the highest level, you are allowed maybe one, like some rare times two mistakes before the game is basically over.
Yeah.
Once like highest level players can't convert a win off of a slight advantage, but in general they're very consistent about converting advantage from any kind of moderate advantage. And a moderate advantage could be as simple as like control of the center early, or in this particular case, you losing 5 infantry like too soon. Actually, that's on the bigger end of it. At this point, actually, I have a major advantage because of the unit count and because of all of the transports that you made.
Yeah.
Okay, so over here, again, I'm not pushing forward. I'm building a block of infantry and mechs to withstand the incoming infantry swarm. Now, this block, as soon as it's big enough, will actually march forward if I see evidence that you are sending vehicles to this arena, which is what we're going to see later inside the game. So, you pop up here. I suicide my recon in to see what you got inside this location. I see a ton of infantry and stuff, and so I start like grouping up, getting ready to attack it. I'm actually kind of baiting you here. I want you to send all of your units forward where I can start hitting them with vehicles instead. And then I am bracing for what I expect to be a large attack on this front, because again, I don't see any vehicles here. I don't know about all the transports you have. I am expecting a ton of vehicles to come swarming on this end if you attack.
Yeah.
And then I have a chain of copters because again, well, actually, I shouldn't be building this many copters. 2 maybe is the most that I really should be going, but I do it anyways just because I'm not really considering like Drake. I want the unit count, and I am just playing this like I would play Sammy. Basically, everything I do this game would have been better if I was Sammy.
And that's funny because recently I fought a very skilled player, and I was kind of shocked. Like the first few times I fought that guy, I thought he was just a bit better than me, and he won because he was just a bit better than me. But by experience, I realized that guy is really strong with surprise attack with air units. And I think there's the potential here, and it's crazy because air unit usually they're not that great. Like they're good for unit count, but they are so easy to shut down by anti-air and stuff. So usually I say don't have too many of them. But after seeing what you do and you having many copters and another player doing the same kind of strat, I realized maybe if you have a good balance of your unit and you splash more battlecopter in your army, you could do good stuff. But here again, don't start battlecopter spam. Well, what's your take? You're better than me.
So battlecopters are really important on this map because of the lower the lower travel time, the lower reinforcement distance for air units.
Yeah.
But in general, battlecopters are very good because they can hit from like angles that other units can't. Right. So down here, I could hit this infantry with the battlecopter down here. I don't because you're Sammy and it wouldn't stop the cap, and you might have an anti-air ready to hit it.
Yeah.
But they What I don't have a super strong opinion because I don't use them that. I mean I do use them a lot, but I'm not that great with them. But the consensus that I have from players who are better than me is that copters are very strong early in the game and then later in the game, but they have a weak spot inside the middle, where that weak spot is like there's maybe like 7 to 8 vehicles on either side, and the opposing player has built 2 anti-airs
Yeah,
because 2 anti-airs can counter like 4 copters
yeah.
or like 5 copters, but not tanks. So in general, I would recommend that your viewers, if you have the choice between, say, building a heavy tank like a mid tank or building a copter tank, you should build copter tank basically 90% of the time.
Yeah, and this
Not
is
because
also what
it's
I
strictly
started
better.
doing after our Fletcher Walker game. I take much more time to deck up, and I think I'm doing much better in that aspect. I think my unit count is better, and I'm much more aggressive. But at some point, I collapse the moment there's too many medium tank on the board because I stopped taking up too fast. You know what I mean? What do you do? Like when you see like 2, 3 medium tank in a row, and you're like, I don't have any because I like unit count. What do you do?
If I see two medium tanks, I immediately build a bomber. Well, okay, that's not true. It depends who I'm playing. If I am playing a lower rated player who follows fundamentals and is just kind of like doing their own thing, then I immediately build a bomber to destroy to counter the mid tanks, because 2 of any kind of heavy tanks is a good spot, is always going to be good for the bomber. If
Yeah,
I am playing with anyone who I perceive as crafty, so this would be like Go 7. Even though I haven't had a chance to fight him,
yeah,
I would flip a coin. I would set up a random number generator. I would set it to like 70-30, and 70% of the time I build the bomber anyways. 30% of the time I build a neo tank. Because Go and other high-rated players are good enough to understand that the second I can see both mid tanks, I'm going to build a bomber, and they might build a fighter in response. They might pre-build a fighter in response to that. So
that's very good to know. And you know, Go 7 is really easy to approach, and he's a great guy. So I think you really should go to him if you really want to fight him, because as I said, he's easygoing and he's really nice. So I think you
yeah, he
could
is.
have a great time having some games with
I'm
him.
absolutely sure I would. Yeah, I'm not doing it yet, just because like I have other things that I need to do. But eventually, Go has started queuing again, so I totally expect to match up with him in the Fog rankings at some point. Just because I think at last count there's like 16 players total who can challenge him. So
Yeah,
eventually, I'm gonna be the one in the rotation that's gonna get a game with him.
that's
I
good.
expect to lose that game, but it'll be fun because I'm gonna be doing some stupid stuff, and
I cannot
I'm
wait
sure
to
he will
see
too.
you doing your fight against Go 7.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going just so that we don't take too long here. Okay, so you push forward to attack everything. This is a good idea, but the big issue with this attack that you do is that you expose both of your mechs. As Sammy, these two mechs are the only thing really keeping you in keeping this army together. I mean, you built a lander so you have vehicles coming in, but it's not as important as these two mechs. And the problem with this attack that you've done is that I can hit both of those mechs this turn
Yeah.
with a clever attack. So we're playing this live at this point, so I was watching you do this, and I basically calculated this attack, knowing that it would work. So I suicide the 3 HP infantry into here to knock 1 health off. This is important because now it lets me 2 HKO this infantry with my own infantry. And then this lets me get a attack off on your mech. And I don't care that I'm going to lose this. I don't care that I'm going to lose this copter because 1, it's going to give me charge to get to that first scop, and 2, the copter has like done its job. Once this anti-air kills it, I don't have more air units inside the area, so I don't need to focus on killing the anti-air. I need to focus on the thing that's actually dangerous, which in this case is the mech. This attack is also good because I have kind of shielded my copter from retaliation. So even if you have vehicles inside this area, you're gonna struggle to get a hit off on the AA.
I see.
Okay, and then yeah. I make a slight mistake. I retreated to infantry to heal earlier. Honestly, I probably should have just had them join the fight.
Yeah.
But that's like a slight mistake. On this side, I have now I see the vehicles, and it's what I expected. So my plan here is I am going to delay all of the fighting here. I'm just going to yeet all my units in, create a stall fest where you cannot take this tower, and I'm going to look to push on this front down to around this forest basically to basically capture all of these properties. That is the strategy I'm going to use to try to win this game. And then once I meet here, once I get control of this forest in this area, then my reinforcements can come in to fight for this spot, and I can kind of like boa constrictor you to death.
Yeah.
So the side on the left matters less. I basically go for an attack that that can hit as much as possible, just kill off as many units as possible. And then I believe this turn you use double time, and let me see if that's right. Yes, you use double time here. That's not a bad idea. One way that you can neuter this attack of mine is by killing off all of my infantry.
Yeah.
So I actually don't hate this first double time.
I
think this is a pretty
I'm the
good
kind
one.
of Sami player that actually understands Sami, and I don't rely on Victory March. Even if Victory March is broken and ridiculous, I don't rely on it, and that pissed me off so much. All these like 800 and 900 that rely on Victory March and then they win and they think they are good. You won because of Victory March. You didn't win because you're good. So that's why I don't rely on Victory March, and it's also because I do think the right way to play Sami is to use double time much more often. Now, of course, if I see a window for a good Victory March, I will time by time use it. But usually, well, the way I see it, if you build up to your Victory March, you didn't play Sami correctly, or you just didn't add the occasion to like kill infantries and capture lots of stuff with double time. So that's one of the two cases. And yeah, what is your take? Victory March or double time?
So you should plan your turns with the intention of getting results with double time the next turn, but then most of the time you wait to see if your opponent responds to the threat, then you hold it and you save the double time to launch a new threat. And then eventually, if you make it to Victory March, then use Victory March to get a bigger threat. So basically, you want to use it as a deterrent. It's used very much like Adder's side slip.
Yeah.
And in standard at least, Adder's side slip is used to position and then force the enemy back a square, and then you keep going forward and forward and forward until they give up, what's the word? Serious positional considerations.
Yeah.
Okay, so the power was very good. You did need to do this, and it kind of turns around a lot of the fighting for you here. Because I am now, my infantry lead that I had has been demolished by how much damage Sami's infantry could do to the other infantry. Actually, if I had been Sami here, I think I could have used the power last turn, and basically done something very similar to you. But this is showing why Sami is so powerful in this map, because this one attack has killed off enough of my infantry that now I am a little worried. So now I understand that you have a lot of infantry in the top right, and so now I know I have an infantry advantage in the bottom left. So now I'm going to push there, and then again look to just consolidate in this top right area, try to prevent you from taking this comm tower.
Yeah.
So that's what goes into this fighting. Just doing my best to kill off as much as I can. Trying to even out the infantry disadvantage and continue to reinforce.
And at that point, you won.
At this point, I kind of won a long time ago. Actually, in this case, I slightly overextend. I did not expect you to send air units this way. I expected you to send air units north. And so that actually gives you a little bit of an advantage here, because I was not expecting so many copters in this area. So I go into this turn assuming that this is the only copter that's here and that you redirected it. And so I'm expecting that I get a bunch of attacks off without my Scop. The reason why I do this is that um, oh, actually, that attack I should have taken with my Super CO power. But the reason why I wanted to do this is that break power also reduces my own vision, and I didn't want to figure out what exactly I could do. This is part of the reason why Drake's so hard to play. I didn't want to like figure out like what was the exact way for me to get the most hits off. But this is clearly something that I should have done after Scop because I would have killed that infantry.
Yeah.
And then I would have been able, I don't know, I'm sure I would have had other options. Okay, so I get all of the attacks that I don't need my Super CO power, or almost all the attacks, and then I turn on my Super CO power to get more kills off. And so here, I place this 4 HP infantry on the city so that you cannot kill my copter with your anti-air on the city, because
We are back for the ending of this replay because I think it's ending soon.
yeah, it does end next turn. So you don't know this, but this ends up being a mistake. You have a local army's superiority inside this area because of how slow my mechs are, and how my infantry and vehicles aren't quite synced up.
Yeah.
I had like a unit advantage and a unit value advantage, but this all goes in the toilet because I wasn't expecting this copter to be here. So
I was kind of proud of my turn. I was like, oh, he didn't expect that. I was able to get it off guard.
Yeah, so you managed to get a pretty good hit off on me. And this is like not great for me. Because my mechs are slow, so I'm not going to get off a ton of hits. And even though I still have an advantage, but I went from having a crushing advantage to just a moderate advantage. I'm still going to win this, but I've slightly thrown the game a little bit. And I'm making a bunch of anti-air because, again, I'm expecting you to like be spamming copters. Though I think this is a glitch here. Maybe if I fast forward a turn, yeah, it'll disappear. Yeah. So I built a mid-tank just because, I don't know, I felt like building a mid-tank. I'm not sure there's any great reason to do so, because I thought it'd be cool and you might be surprised.
I think you knew you won. That's why you made it. You're like, for the pride, for the happiness.
It wasn't for anything in particular. I just felt like making it that turn.
Chilling there.
And so I get a bunch of hits off. I send the battlecopter forward to its certain death because I want to check to see what units you have in the area. I'm trying to scout to see if there's more tanks. I'm trying to see if there's anything inside this forest that I might have missed during my Scop turn. Now I don't see anything, so I don't see anything. So I continue to basically like kill units and try to get an advantage. And again, I'm seeing less stuff here, so I'm pushing forward. And I'm doing my best to just hold the front here and make sure you never get this comm tower.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so I'm way too aggressive here, so I push down here, but then I also push at the top. This attack I do on this side is 100% a bad idea. Because I'm exposing all of my vehicles, I have like basically no reinforcements. If I really expected there to be nothing here, I expect there to be stuff here.
So we are back.
Yeah. So like I was saying, this attack on the right side is very lazy. It was pretty late at night when we were playing, and I just yeeted my units in to see if I could destroy. If I could get lucky and destroy the tank, which I don't think is actually possible. I didn't bother looking at the map. I think actually like this was never going to happen, even with perfect luck rolls. But I just felt like going for it, and it exposes basically all of my important units to a pretty bad counterattack. So once again, I throw a moderate advantage away. I mean, a crushing advantage for a moderate advantage. Actually, this is now somewhere between slight and... No, you still have too many transfers and not other things. Yeah, I still have a moderate advantage here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the game ends pretty soon. You surrender, though it's not quite necessary yet. I just continue to hit units, continue to overextend, and do my best to try to take this comm tower and just force you into engagements that I'm hoping will eventually bleed you dry once I get my scop and I can take it. Actually, in this bottom left side, I've actually won this front. So over the course of the next 6 to 7 turns, I'm going to end up capturing like these 3 properties.
Yeah, and I think that's when I resign. I think.
Yeah, you get a pretty good attack off before you resign. But yeah, and this partially works because I built a mid tank instead of another tank and artillery. I mean, another tank and copter. But yeah, the game is basically over. It's not looking good for you. I can't immediately respond to all of this stuff, but I think I can kill most of the vehicles and a decent number of your infantry this turn. So yes, the game is definitely over.
You got another typhoon, and there's also another sign to say you won. You're a good player. You're really strong, and you overextend. That's a sign here. When a really strong player overextend, that's a sign.
Good players overextend all the time. I'm not convinced that is like a sign that that they're winning. But yeah, I definitely I wasn't taking this like very, very seriously, which gave you a lot of opportunities to get some comebacks. But I do hope that this shows how powerful Sami is on this map.
Yeah, Drake is a really good CO, and I think Sami as well. Sami is much more fun.
Yeah, Sami is a lot more. Actually, I don't think Drake is very good on this map because of how important the air units are.
I think Drake is good in all maps because global damage is dumb, but that's just me.
Global damage is done up until you get to the point where the high-rated aggressive players know how to pressure you early and then push that into the mid-late game. Yeah. Once you get to that point, you need skills installing at the game, and that's something that very few high-level players have. I am not convinced that anyone at the highest levels, except for maybe Hogat, Go7, and Inkugarg, are good at like stalling games out to look for other advantages.
Yeah.
Everyone else against like Tordred basically will crumple like paper. Yeah. This is the resign. Sami is very, very good on this map. Sami is very, very good on any map that forces you to have a lot of infantry and infantry engagements, or where those engagements can give you significant advantages. Sami is good on strong air maps counterintuitively, especially at the lower tiers.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's just generally underrated.
I don't think she belongs in tier 4. I just don't think it's the true.
It depends on the map. There's some like Stalingrad. Stalingrad Sami is not good on.
Actually, any light-based Sami becomes much weaker. I think any light-based truly arms her, but the moment you have 3 bases, I think she should be considered 3 bare minimum.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am hoping that I get back. Well, so Cookie Lamb is currently playing in DC10. If he wins his current match, he and I will be matched up for the next game. I am personally hoping that I'm going to. I am lower rated than Cookie at the moment, and so I get to choose the maps, and Normandy will definitely be one of them. So we might get a world where I finish that game. I'm sorry, go for it.
So we are back after like 10 pause. Let's keep going here.
Yeah, well, we're wrapping up here. So the last thing I just wanted to mention is that we may be in a world where I have my match against Cookie Lamb and it's on this map, and I play Sami because Sami is the best choice in tier 3, and I could demonstrate some of these ideas inside a tournament game, and then some weeks later, this video recorded before I did that game comes out with me explaining.
Yeah, this video will probably be out like in September, October-ish. I don't know when. Well, I got videos stacking up because I am on hiatus right now, and I did a lot of collabs. I went on hiatus because I decided to take some kind of break of solo videos, but I did not stop the grind because I do like doing stuff with other players. It's always fun, even if most of the time I lose. I don't care. I have fun, and having guests around is always amazing. And yeah, that what keeps me going, you know.
Well, I hope you delay making this video for as long as possible so that I can, so the tournament can happen. And just to toss in some more things.
It's like in the bottom of the list, so don't worry about that.
Great.
It will take like very long before it's out. Like as I said, September, October, that's around the time where I will actually upload it. Maybe later. All depends on like when I come back. Like I think I plan on coming back at the end of July, so August I have a lot of content ready. But yeah, probably September, October will be around the time this will be uploaded.
That makes sense. In that case, since that's a little bit farther out than I was expecting, I will toss in a little bit more as predictions to really milk this prediction thread as long as possible. So for Cookie Lamb, I have this Sami on Normandy idea cooked up. I need to like prepare some other things because he doesn't have to choose the map. He doesn't have to choose Normandy, but I hope that he does. For Tordred, who is the opponent if I manage to win my Cookie Lamb game, I'm going to be playing Drake on Stalingrad, or I intend to play Drake on Stalingrad as a response to his video showing how to play and against Drake. Now I fully expect to lose that game, but I want to see if I can give Tordred a run for his money.
That's good then. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end this?
Nope. As always, if you're watching this, you're probably already on the Discord. But on the off chance that you're not, if you're interested in learning more about strategy, you should go ahead and join the AWBW Discord and come to the Strategy channel or the Global League channel. Both are gold mines of information and experienced players who are happy to give you advice, including me, now that I am back.
That's very good. So thank you everyone for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content like that. And I wish you all a great day.